Good evening. We will call the meeting to order.
Welcome to Nixa City Hall. This video is going to provide you with an overview of how the City of Nixa conducts City Council meetings. We encourage everyone to attend and participate in City Council meetings. This is part of how democracy works at the local level, listening to the perspectives of subject matter experts, city residents, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before we start the meeting, let's review some of Council's rules of order. These rules help us make sure our meetings are orderly and efficient, while protecting the ability of everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your own comments until it is your turn to speak. Presenters are invited by the Council to provide information during the meeting to the Council. These are informational presentations only, and nothing will be voted on at the time of the presentation. Presenters are not time limited. There are 2 times when all other visitors will be able to speak to Council. The first is during the visitors section of the agenda, and the second is during any public hearing regarding an agenda item. During the visitors section, anyone may speak to Council about any topic, whereas the public hearings regarding specific agenda items allow you to make comments for Council to consider before they make a decision on that topic. Whether you wish to speak during any public hearing or the visitors section, the following rules of order will apply. 1. Only one person should speak at a time. Be respectful of the person speaking and wait to speak until it is your turn. 2. Anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. 3. You must first state your name and provide your address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. 4. All speakers will be given 5 minutes to make their comments to the Council. The mayor or Council may have additional questions for speakers after this 5-minute period. 5. All comments should be addressed to the mayor and Council. 6. If you have questions about existing city processes, programs, or policies, or if you need assistance from staff on any issue, please contact City Hall during normal business hours and we'll be happy to assist you or answer any questions you may have at that time. The public hearing is designed to provide the public an opportunity to provide testimony and information to the mayor and council regarding the decisions they may be considering. Keep in mind this meeting will be recorded and live streamed with video and audio. Therefore, all comments relevant to this meeting must be spoken into a microphone, otherwise video viewers will not be able to hear you. In the case of a closed session or technical difficulties, some meetings or portions of meetings may not actually be recorded or streamed. The use of cell phones during council meetings is discouraged, so please silence all devices now. Thank you for watching, and thank you for engaging with the City of Nixa. The meeting will begin shortly. Welcome to Nixa City Hall. This video is going to provide you with an overview of how the City of Nixa conducts
Sean Lucas.
Here.
Aaron Peterson.
Here.
Darlene Graham.
Here.
Zern Vest.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would any member of council like to remove anything from the consent agenda? If none, I will accept a motion.
So made.
I'll second.
First by Mr. Lucas, second by Ms. Morris. Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Zern Vest.
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
All right. We have some special visitors in here today. All right. Whereas approximately 1 in every 772 babies in the United States is born with Down syndrome, representing an estimated 5,100 people per year, and whereas Down syndrome is the most frequently occurring chromosomal disorder and is the leading cause of intellectual and development delay in the U.S. and in the world, and whereas possessing a wide range of abilities, people with Down syndrome are active participants in educational, occupational, social, and recreational circles of our communities, And whereas individuals with Down syndrome should have equal opportunity to achieve the universally desired goals of self-fulfillment, pride in their achievements, inclusion in their communities, and reaching their fullest potential. And whereas quality education programs, a stimulating home environment, good health care, and positive support from family, friends, and the community enable people with Down syndrome to lead fulfilling and productive lives. And whereas the City of Nixa encourages all citizens to work together to promote respect and inclusion of individuals with Down syndrome and to celebrate their accomplishments and contributions. Now therefore I, Jared Giddens, Mayor for the City of Nixa, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Down Syndrome Awareness Month. And you know we got to take a picture. So.
She's like, I'm out of here.
By far one of the coolest kids in Nixa, that's for sure. All right, next up, have our presentation, Navigate Building Solutions, to talk about the Police Department planning and construction.
Mayor, Council, tonight with us, we have Todd Sweeney, so one of the co-owners of Navigate Building Solutions. He's here tonight to talk a little bit about the services that they offer as far as consulting firms that we've been looking at to help us through that process. So I'd like to welcome Todd up to give the presentation.
Good evening. My name's Todd Sweeney. As Jimmy mentioned, I'm co-founder of Navigate Building Solutions. I first want to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come and talk to you this evening. I'll try to make it brief and beneficial to all of us. What I want to do tonight is introduce the firm that we represent and that we started in 2016 called Navigate Building Solutions, and the potential role we could potentially play on your project, or a firm like ours could play on your project if you choose to hire an owner representative. I thought I would do a quick introduction, talk about your upcoming journey, talk about the role that Navigate plays or an owner representative plays in the context of keeping this just as an educational briefing, and then answer any questions and answers you may have. When I introduce myself, I'm introducing a firm that has proven results. We work with over 30 municipalities in the state of Missouri, over 25 school districts, including local school districts, Springfield School Districts, and Nixa. And when I introduce myself and introduce our company, we're introducing a team of advisors. So we have over 30 individuals that work with us. They're specialists in the design and construction industry. And it's those skill sets that we bring in a collaborative manner to help clients such as local municipalities, county governments, and such to bring forth and have successful projects that are being designed and built for their community. What does Navigate do? What does an owner representative do? Navigate is 100% of our work is performed as an owner representative. In this role, Navigate performs 90% of our work to public agencies, as mentioned before, doing projects such as administration, courts, law enforcement, fire departments, parks, rec, and public school districts. Before 1999, so when I talk to you about the role of an owner rep, I'm talking to you really based on experience garnered since 1999. In 1999, we started a division of a large general contracting firm in St. Louis that performed this service, performed this owner representative service, this consulting service for public agencies back in 1999. It wasn't until 2016 that we broke out and started our own firm with the intent of having a very specific focus-based firm that could provide and deliver the services as an independent third party without any ties to the architectural or engineering or contracting entities in the state of Missouri, so that we could be truly a third-party consultant to you, and with focused processes and procedures that would allow us to be more cost-effective in our ability to deliver that consulting role. We operate in 5 states currently, but most importantly is we're really growing a strong presence in Southwest Missouri. You can see that we work in a lot of rural communities. We're very comfortable working in Missouri, regardless of where it's at. We currently have, as I mentioned before, work with Nixa and Springfield. We understand the local market. We understand the local vendors. It's fun for me because normally if my son hadn't just moved from Springfield to Kansas City in June, I'd be going for beer and football this evening with them. But what I can do is if they're still awake, visit my aunt and uncle who live in the neighborhood behind the police station, Pam and Rick Wilk, as well as a niece and nephew that live in, Tracy and Dylan Burrows that live in Springfield. So I'm down here a lot. Our company's down here a lot. It's important to us. So when I speak to you about the role of an owner rep, I really do speak to you from a perspective of your community, which is very different. It is. It's very different from St. Louis, Kansas City, Southwest, or Southeast, or Northeast. We also are speaking to you on our owner representative role and what they do based upon experience with the specific project type that Mr. Lyles and Cindy brought forth to me and your police chief, which is the idea of supporting potentially the large project you have forthcoming with your police station. Since 2016, not 1999, but 2016, so in the last 6 years, this has been our workload with law enforcement. A lot of municipal police stations, a lot of county work. If I were to date or build this list beyond from 16 back to 99, it would be triple what you're seeing here. So we really do have expertise with law enforcement, and I think that speaks well to what an owner representative can do, not only for municipality, but on a project very specific to what you're going to launch on. So enough about us. That gives you a little background of why I feel very comfortable in speaking to you about the next few slides, which is really framing your journey, where you guys are heading, so that then we can layer in what an owner rep does on top of that. So your journey over the next 30 months is going to be very complicated. It's going to be very taxing on not only you as a public agency, but on your staff and you as leaders. And what I mean by taxing is over the first 12 months alone, and I think you're targeting this to occur in 2024, you're going to be engaging and buying a ton of consultants. Potentially up to 18 different consultants will be working on your job. It could be geotech, survey, architect, mechanical, landscape, security consultant, vendor, furniture. All these people come together with the intent of, over that period of time, building a set of documentation. You can see what's over to the right here is a project that's at 90% design that has over 1,500 pages of specifications and well over 250 drawings. And those documents are built to tell bidders, contractors, what you want. They're being used to go into an event with a public agency, which is very different than private, where you will publicly bid in a competitive manner your project, so that a bunch of firms can come together and actually give you a number to take the what to a reality. It's a real building. So you'll spend 2 months doing exactly that, engaging contractors. And you'll have 3 to 9 contractors in all likelihood who will be assembling pricing from over 100 different vendors and suppliers. Quite frankly, it's probably going to be closer to about 200 on this size job, because you've got everything from the grading contractor to the guy who provides paint, to the person that does the specialty lockers for the police, to the tile guy. They're assembling all these numbers in a 2-month period so they can give you one number, and you compare that to the effort done by the other general contractors. Then, at the end of that 2 months, should it be within budget, should it be within budget, you will then be working with that contractor that was the low bidder, right? And over that 14 months, and it could be 16, could be 18, depending on your job size and depending on what long lead items we have. During that period, your team, your city will be working with a contractor that's trying to, first and foremost, figure out whether or not he got it right. Right? In 2 months, he put all this numbers and assembled all this information. He's just trying to figure out if he got it right. And he's going to spend the next 18 months making sure that he's whole, right? And hopefully improve his own profitability. While you've got this 100 or 200 other contractors out there that were also competitively bid because of state statute, they're also trying to figure out if there's a way to improve margin. Okay? So you're now being tasked to be the buyer of those services, and that's the situation that the public statutes put you in. The final 2 or 3 months after that, boy, even though we got the building built, we still have to independently buy the furniture, because that didn't get provided as one of those 200 contractors. It wouldn't be in those sets of drawings. It's a separate set of drawings for furniture, for art, your phone system, your key system. All those need to be bought and procured. So that's the next 30 months. And though you have a job right now where you're doing a renovation, it's smaller. You're still doing a lot of those same things. It takes time and energy. But the bigger the project, the more complex it is, the more difficult and more vendors and suppliers you'll be dealing with as a public agency. So how do we overlap that with a set of services? Well, what we recognize and why we started our firm, and we started our firm in 1999 and then formed an independent company in 2016, because we believe that there's a lot of public agencies that lack that expertise for that very simple task, which is not simple, very complex task of design and construction. Wonderful administration, wonderful police. You have a lot of cities have project managers on board that know streets and roads and are filling your potholes and getting jobs done and renovations done. But when it comes to a large capital improvement, a large design build, it's just not something they do regularly. Could they figure it out? Probably. Do you lose efficiency and money when you're trying to figure out for the first time? Absolutely. Okay. So what we did is we built a culture and a company that said, well, why don't we be a temporary extension of staff at these public agencies? And it's been remarkable, the response. Whether it's a small city, big city, whether you've got a procurement department or not, we're layering in doing these things. We're serving as a temporary extension of your staff to, one, be your quarterback, coordinate and schedule all the activities. Not only with all those vendors and suppliers, but with your own internal staff as well, with meetings with you so you can be informed correctly and responsively, right? Whether it's with your staff or user groups. Two, we assist with the procurement activities. Boy, buying all this stuff is amazing. It's a remarkable strategy, and we're really, really good at it. We really are. To influence the what with alternate solutions. So because we do so many police stations, and because if you hire the right owner rep, they've been exposed to so many different solutions for whether it's lockers, whether it's materials, whether it's processes or how you buy, we're able to come with an architect, sit down with them and influence the design with the alternate solutions that save you money, right? Next is how. Architects and engineers and all those consultants in that sheet of paper, those documents I showed you before, are defining the what, but nobody spent the time with the how, right? That's why having a master builder on board during the design phase, he could talk about how are we going to run cranes, how are we going to access the site, how are we going to do parking. You don't have a parking issue here, but we just did a police station in Franklin County, Illinois that was in City Square. We had to bus people in. But if that's not known ahead of time and not included in the contract documents, then you pay double for it, right? When the contractor says, what am I supposed to do? Or they just blow up your whole city and none of the retailers, which was the case there, they were concerned the retailers wouldn't have parking spaces. Make sure what fits in budget. So we provide full detailed construction quantity takeoff estimates throughout the journey, so you know exactly how much it's going to cost. 24/7 construction advisor during the construction phase for quality control and for claim mitigation. They still occur, right? We want to be that expert so that your team, your staff, your police chief, and Mr. Lyles and Cindy and whoever else might be assigned to this have somebody that immediately can be there to be your reference and can, quite frankly, be your expert. So you're not just getting bullied. You're not getting pushed around, right? You're not being presented numbers that you shouldn't be. And then lastly, to manage all those direct systems and services, the phone, the furniture, all those things that everybody forgets about till the end, you can't. And then they have to be bought per state statute. And that's often the case, overlooked a lot of times at the end of a job, because you're running so fast, you start to ignore the law. Not because you mean to, it's just because you got to get furniture, right? So you just start buying stuff. That works, but when the projects get bigger and bigger, they get more eyes on them, they get more attention, and then people are more likely to call foul on things that might have worked just because you did it before. They don't always work that well when the jobs become bigger, the packages become more robust. I mentioned budget, because that's always the first thing everybody cares about. What about numbers? How are you going to keep me in control? I will tell you this, if somebody walks in this room that's an owner rep, and he says during the journey, we had a budget bust because of inflation, supply chain, fire him. I'm on public record, fire him immediately. It's inexcusable. Our job is to advise you. If we can't predict that any better than, or provide you a number that you can believe in, right, and then work through the process to get you to budget, then what am I here for? I mean, that's one of the number one things I've got to do is understand your budget and make sure your building fits it. Okay, so we do a robust process. We do all the preliminary estimates, we do detailed estimates, quantity takeoff. You'll know every single door, every piece of drywall, every piece of trim will be estimated on your estimates that we give you. We'll go through the journey, and I'll only highlight 3 of these items. We'll go through and we'll hit total program budgeting. So beyond construction, you got all these other things. How much are the phone systems? Do we need fiber connecting between the buildings, and does it exist? Is furniture, art, not too much typically in the police stations, but I will tell you one thing that often gets missed is cabinet in the lobby for drug drops off. You know what I mean? Just that little piece of something that gets mounted to the wall costs something, and you should have that in your budget. And then inflation and supply chain analysis, we do a ton of it. We bid 3 to 4 public jobs a month. So every single time I'm doing that, I'm benchmarking back to my estimate to make sure that my quantities and unit costs are accurate. Nobody else is doing that. And that's powerful. It's one of the key reasons why we continue to get so much work. With that, I wanted to bring this up. I was talking to your chief about this. I wish I had built the same thing for police. I did this for another city that's got a lot of fire stations, obviously. And the nice thing about fire stations is fire stations are usually they're built new, right? They're on similar topography, site sizes. When you get to police stations, depending on the department, it could be remarkably different, right? But we did, these are all fire stations that we've done in the last few years. And you can see before COVID, we were running in the 200s. Everybody used to say, well, 200 to 300 is what you should spend on a firehouse. I would agree with you. But what's interesting about that is what happened at post-COVID. And you can see the numbers there starting to float up in the 450, 449, 530 a square foot. You're going, there is no way. It's not possible. And yet, if you look at the second column from the right, you can see the number of bidders we received on those jobs. This was publicly bid by general contractors that had absolutely no way to win their job unless they were low. There was no inflated cost. There was no, hey, I just dealt with one contractor and he was bumping up his number. That was a competitive bid event. So that's real. But what's also fascinating about that is the 3 numbers I circled. So again, the idea of being over budget can't happen. And what happens is you'll buy an architect and he'll give you one of these square foot numbers and just call it a day. We won't, because there's 184 up there, 338, and 490. And I can show you the 3 projects associated with all 3 of those on the bottom there. Right? The one in the middle and the one on the right are the most interesting, because the far right is the 480, and that's St. Charles. They got an ordinance for all brick, and quite frankly, they're in the middle of a city that they felt they wanted a higher standard of what their building looked like, and you can see it. It looks great, right? Lincoln County said, I don't care. I told my constituents 350, that's where we're going to be at, and no more. I got this much money. Right? That's still a fine-looking station, in my opinion, but the geometry's simpler. The facade on the front's powerful, but the facade on the back isn't, quite frankly, because they're in a very rural community. The one on the far left is Washington Community Fire Protection District out in Washington. It's a community fire department, right? It's even less. So I just wanted to give you that image because, quite frankly, it's oftentimes you'll have somebody from the public raise their hand and say, why is our fire station costing $338 when 2-bay fire station costing $338, when out in Washington County, I know they did a 2-bay fire station for $184. We can answer that question. Okay? It's the facade, it's the skin, it's the quality. Each one's right for their community, and you'll have a right solution for yours, quite frankly. You know, it's probably going to be brick. It's what you got, right? But it doesn't have to be super fancy, right? This community may not demand that for the police station. So we'll be able to match the budget. One thing that an owner rep does for you that I think is should be very effective. Was asked to spend a little bit more time talking about how this relates to your project. So what we have now is we have site plans, and it was very kind of your architect and engineers to put those together. When I talk about budget management, I'm talking, and just looking at just the site, just 3 things that come to mind in a quick exercise. Well, covered parking for police. Benchmark, 99% of all police chiefs that we've worked with want covered parking. And this is about the quantity that you would see as a ratio, right? 50% of them get it. Half the time it's VE out. Sorry, chief, I don't it's just something that could be built later. It's going to cost you twice as much to do later, but Olivet did that. I mean, a lot of people do that. But if you're fighting for a budget to maintain budget, these are the kind of things that we're able to bring forth. But not just say, some do and some don't. What's the physical cost? Right? And if I do it out of wood, it's $18,000 a space. If I do it out of what Creve Coeur did, which is a very distinct A cantilever system, it's $35. So not only do you want it, not only is it worth the money, in this case $180,000 or $350,000, not only does it fit within the budget, but what quality level do you want? And then the chief will weigh in, because they always do, and say, I don't want the column in front. Because if I'm backing a police car out real quick, it needs to be free span. And he's right. Then some chiefs will say, well, I don't want metal deck up there because it messes with my ability to transfer data from the car to the receiver in the building for their cameras. He's right. So there's lots of pros and cons. What we do as an owner rep is price them for them, so that when they come to you and say, this is why we think we need it and we think it should be in the budget, you then can ask that question. Is it economical? Does it make sense? Did you look at all the options? Their answer is going to be yes, right? Because we'll help them with that. And then when you ask, well, I want to know it too, is I want to weigh in on that decision, you'll have the data. So you can. Same thing with how we do bollards. There's lots of different ways to keep vehicles from running into your building. I could tell you the lit bollards are by far the most expensive, but that's the first place architects and engineers go, right? You could do raised curbs, you can do planters, lots of things. And then glazing. I don't know if most people know this, but there's 8 different levels of ballistic glazing, right? From $3 a square foot to $400 a square foot. Nobody brings that up. We will. We will allow you to make educated decisions. Is 3 even worth it? You know, is a 9mm bullet just stopping that worth it? Or do you really want, you know what I mean? Do you really want an AR round to be stopped? Most want to at least get an AR round stopped, excuse me. The way we save money is by doing just that. So there's 4 areas where it's very objective: 2, 3, 4, and 6. The assisting with procurement activities, what alternate solutions, describing the how, and then being your claim mitigations expert. Quite frankly, in 2017, we studied every single project with those 4 items, which were very objective. If you get a change order for $30K, you negotiate it down to 12, you save 18 grand, right? If the architect's proposing this solution, you're able to find an alternative one, it's a cost savings to you as a community, you're able to save this much. So we did all these projects back in 2017, and we would have continued this. We just got too many projects. It's just taking too much time to do this study. But I could show you the results of that, and it was 12.3% savings due to our effort. Okay? The other items, being your quarterback, that has more to do with time savings. So your staff will say, man, I've got people, I might have a project manager. O'Fallon's got 4 of them. They still hire us for their vertical buildings, but to be honest with you, I don't do a whole lot of streets and roads. Because usually municipalities are hiring their project managers to handle that day-to-day stuff, and they don't need us. You know, some communities don't even have a project manager, which is unusual in today's day and age, right? So usually there is at least one project person that's running projects throughout the community. But if not, we can support that as well. When it gets into that routine stuff, quite frankly, our return on investment goes way down. Because you got standards, you got specs, you know what a sidewalk should be, you know what a road should be, you know, a pothole. You don't need to pay us to do that, right? But it is considered. And then, so we do quarterback all the activities. Really, there's a savings in what your staff doesn't have to do on that, but it's hard and not tangible. You know, it's hard to put into our graph. And then, you know, what's the value of being on budget? I think it's everything, but I think it's worth my job, but you can't put a number to it. So stuff like that, we try not to. Here's an example of what the community around you and others have done. So we don't have to be one service fits all. So we offer a lot of different services from pre-construction through bidding all the way through construction. Springfield School Districts has pretty strong project management team on board. They build a lot of schools. They're getting ready to do new middle schools, right? And they already built one. You know they built one recently. Now they're building more. So they feel like they got the expertise during construction, but they really wanted to help with that alternates, best value, and estimating and budget control. So that's where they hired us. Nixa School Districts hired us for everything, right? A little bit different. You guys know your districts around here. You know, you just know the difference between them, and you can say, oh, that makes sense, you know. Eureka on police, they hired us for everything. Baldwin did the same. That's on the far right. City of St. Charles is an interesting one. We started off just coming in, working with them on construction phase for aquatics. They loved that so much, and during that time, I spent some time talking to them about pre-construction as well. And since then, we've done a police station, 3 firehouses, and now we're working on a city hall with them, all doing all services. And St. Charles is another one that's got project managers in-house. Right? This is not their wheelhouse. Their project managers are busy doing other things. I was asked too, on the bottom 3 bullets, what would we cost? You know, where do we come into that return on investment equation? Our pre-construction phase services get to the point where you got a contractor on board usually is less than 1.5%. Okay? If you were to say, would you contract with me today for 1.5%? I'd say yes. Do I want to talk to you about really what we're going to get into, where you're at with your architect, who we're looking at? I think there's some things that can drive that cost down. In addition, the way we're often hired now is we are a member of a cooperative purchasing agreement who went through a rigorous process. So did the federal government. So we got 2 sets of rates out there. The federal government went through a process of procuring us, and you think that, man, federal government overpays on everything. They don't on their rates because they audit the heck out of us, which is crazy, and then say they have to have the lowest. And then TIP says we need to have the next lowest. You can't offer anybody else more. And they actually negotiated 13% discount on our rates. So the value's there. And I think if you benchmark us against any architect engineer, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, these rates make sense. It's the hours, though. You don't want me to take advantage of the hours I apply to it. So that's why we give a parameter on pre-construction. If we get into construction, depending on what available staff that you have, and we're full services, we generally run somewhere around 14, 15 a month, but that can come down substantially, right? It depends. Depends on the workload. What do we got going on in your area? You know, quite frankly, if Nixa and this is going on and we got another city down south and I can have a guy split into 3 of them, it makes a difference. So what we do is we'd sit down, we propose the hours. Do you want us to run all the prevailing wage documentation? Some cities are set up for prevailing wage no matter what kind of job it is, so they just do it. Those are the kind of things that can lower my cost considerably. But it's a monthly cost, and that month is set by the bidding contractor. So I don't control the duration of the job. Right, we're going to get bids, and when the bids come in, those bids will, each one will provide a schedule that goes with their bid, and we'll weigh that out, quite frankly. So that's how we get paid. That's the thought. I think there's some interest, and hopefully tonight support. You guys get some feel for us, what an owner rep does. We have proven results. I don't have a single public sector client I haven't gotten a letter of reference from. I've got over 75 clients. I'll share any single one of them with us. If you hear about a job Navigate's on, you're like, man, I heard about that job in Houston. I heard about Poplar Bluff, or I heard about, Kansas City. Call me, I'll send you a letter, if it's complete. Sorry, if it's not done, I can't send it to you yet, but there are a few of those. So that's important to us because I don't know, I'm old school, dude. I tell my 3 boys, they're 19, 22, and 25, attach a letter of reference to your resume. They think I'm crazy, but I still do it. So that's introduction to us and what an owner rep is. Jimmy?
Mayor, Council, did you have any questions for Todd while he's up here about the services they provide? Just for clarification, as Todd mentioned, they are on the co-op program. So that's if we move forward with this consulting services, we'll be under the co-op. So in other words, we won't be going out for an RFQ or an RFP. We can go ahead and just move forward with that. Of course, contracts and all those things have to happen. But for tonight, I wanted to make sure that the mayor and council was aware of the services that are provided and the benefit of those services so that when we do start to move forward with this project, we can make a well-informed decision. So if you had any questions while Todd's here, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them.
We're good.
Well, that was easy. Well, thank you very much, and thank you
Thank you,
for
Todd.
allowing me the time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Todd. Okay, we will open up the visitor section.
Scott Jenkins.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to talk about an issue that I have been experiencing in my little less than a year here in Nixa now, and that's an issue with flooding. And the good news is, through talking with quite a few people, I know there's already a plan in place to address this. I guess I just want to add a little bit of my own personal perspective to it so that, if it ever comes down to a time frame of weighing budgetary needs here and there, maybe I can say something to let you know that, the impact that it's having on people right now. So anyway, my family and I just moved to Nixa in November. We were in the process of adopting, and our little girl was starting school this year, and we wanted to find our forever house, a place with a good school district and a nice neighborhood, and we found that at 306 Bessie Street, which is just on a little dead-end road just south of the junior high. In March of this year, we were completing our adoption, and we were excited. We were having a big party to celebrate. The night before, big storm came, and we started watching the water rise. The city workers were out on our street all through the night doing what they could to help prevent it, but the water still came up. We thought we were not going to be able to have our celebration or even get out of our house. We did get some damage through that, but we were able to recover with not too bad of damage. Fast forward 6 months to this last weekend. I'll skip a few things that happened in between there that were smaller incidents. But this last weekend, we participated in a citywide garage sale. And as part of that, ironically, we pulled a lot of our stuff from storage in our garage down onto the floor and used our shelving unit to make like a flea market. If you'll have like a lot of people came in and said, "Whoa, you got like a retail store in here." It looked great. Unfortunately, Saturday night, a storm came rolling through, and I had set up a little campsite in our family room with my daughter because she was bored from the garage sale all day. And my wife came in and woke me up at 1 a.m. and said, "We're flooding." And got up, and there's water pouring into the crawl space. Look out front. You can't see anything but water. It's coming up, and it's about the time, about 3 inches from getting up to our front door. Our yard's all underwater. Look in the garage, because I knew the situation out there, and the water was up on the front of all the garage doors and spewing in the sides. So the water, you can just watch the water coming up in the garage. And I got to make a split-second decision to try to save the stuff that's important in the garage or go try to remedy the problem. And so I grab a rake, and my wife and I run out in the dark, in the rain, wading through water to get out to the grates to try to get them cleaned off and try to get one grate pulled off so that the water can drain. And that was a little bit of a harrowing experience at times, but because you're doing this not just in standing water, you're doing this basically in a river that's running through between our house and our neighbor's house. Get it cleaned, get the grates cleaned and pulled so the water starts coming down. Then I'm running in and trying to save our family keepsakes and stuff from the garage. And unfortunately, we lost quite a bit, stuff that we can't replace. But it's not about the single damage. It's the thought that you thought you had everything lined up, and it kind of crashes you down a little bit. And I know there's other houses that are impacted in the area too. But I just want to give you a little bit of my own personal perspective of kind of what it's like going through that. And not only that, I can't help but think when we pull that grate off to let the water drain, it concerns me. We've done it a couple of times, because if we don't do it, the city will come out and do the same thing. We really appreciate, by the way, all the work that the workers do. But I'm walking away from, 4.5 foot deep water that's now running down through this big hole in the ground with nothing to stop it. And, the odds of a kid coming out or something at 1:30 in the morning might be minimal, but in the back of my head, I just keep an eye on it. I'm like, God, I hope a child or something doesn't come out and decide to jump in the water or something, because, heaven forbid. It's extremely unlikely, but they would basically have no chance. It would just suck them down through that hole. And there's a reason that the grating is there, obviously, to prevent things like that happening. But if we wouldn't have pulled that grate, there would have been, for sure, ours, and I know a few houses south of us, that would have been lost, essentially. So anyway, that's just my own personal perspective. And, some of you, I know you're aware of the problem and there is a solution. I just wanted to, sometimes it's just a theoretical problem until you hear a little bit more details about kind of what's going on there. So anybody have any questions or thoughts or anything for me?
No, definitely thanks for letting us know, your whole story. That is something that, and I didn't know if Doug wanted to update on how, I think you guys did talk to Doug, right? I think your wife did? Or
yeah.
one of the other guys? Yeah.
My wife, we were doing tag team today in between work, talking to people about it. So yeah, everybody's been great that we've talked to.
Good.
And I'm glad that there's a plan in place. It's just, I know there's various things that can slow a plan down. At best, it's still a little ways out.
Yep.
But I was hoping if there's competing budgetary issues or whatever, that maybe it'll stick in somebody's head like, oh, that's a real problem. It's not just a minor flooding issue. It might not affect the whole city, but there are some people that it really impacts greatly.
Yeah, it's definitely been, that whole project has been something we've been pushing forward for a while. I guess one thing I could tell you, and one way you could help, is one snag that we did hit was getting permission to work on that. So in the next phases, feel free to talk to your neighbors and
Absolutely, I'll be a champion.
and let them know we could use their support quickly instead of.
I'll
The
do
long
the community
process we just
organizing.
went
I know
through.
there's other people that I talked to just real briefly that, I don't want to take any more of your time, but I know there's people that, that had damage. I talked to one person, I'm like, didn't your house get? And they're like, oh yeah, it was just flowing in the back door. We put seals up and everything, and I'm like, have you talked to anybody or anything? They're like, nothing's gonna happen. I'm like, well, actually, it's happening, but, so I think maybe just knocking on some doors and getting some people organized, and them understanding that it's gonna take people giving permission to their personal property in cases for this to move forward, so.
Well, and we'll definitely keep you updated, and like he said earlier, we're gonna need a quarterback, so that might be you.
If there's anything, anybody feel free to reach out to me.
We will, for sure.
If there's anything I can do to help champion anything in the neighborhood, I'll be more than happy to do my part.
We will for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen.
Thank you.
Ron Sanders.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Sanders. I live at 976 Glen Oaks Drive. Wanted to tell just a brief story. 20 years of my life I spent in the military, and I got to travel all over the world and everything, and I got to live in all kinds of crazy communities across the United States and other countries. One thing that I never got to do is exercise my rights as a citizen to get involved civically. So for 20 years, I never really had the ability or the desire, to tell you the truth, to go to city council meetings or to address any concerns. What's sad is that, you know, we have so many people here that do have concerns, that either dismiss them as if, you know, nobody cares, or they're too busy to, I'll do the quotes, too busy to you know, address their concerns, or they just don't know how, and they don't know to just come and start talking to someone. Maybe it's where my passion lies over the past few years to be here and be involved, is because I was starved for those last 20 years, and I had to live in the consequences of cities and people making decisions where I had zero control. But in the past 3 years, everything that I've seen here is that people can come here and take control of their situations and talk to you guys and try to address problems and get things resolved as best that the city can do it, you know, or find the ability for them to do it themselves. What saddens me is that people won't get up and actually come and do it. I'm really hard on you guys for a lot of things. I know that I've used some really strong language. I'm pretty sure that some people have come to you and said that Ron Sanders, you know, he's a little bit rough on you guys. And sometimes maybe it is necessary or not, but you guys have a lot to do, and the people of the city should be looking towards you guys just a little bit more whenever they do have a problem with a storm drain, you know, or other questions about what's going on with the city. I know this place fills up whenever there's a planning and zoning issue in somebody's neighborhood. But how many people actually get involved in other things, like how we're spending money, or just the little things, you know, like to be here and support your Down syndrome proclamation? You know, that's a pretty big thing. I'm really glad that you did it, because I support that. I think it's awesome. But yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that more citizens don't actually engage themselves here civically. And there's so much, I'll call it civic ignorance, where people don't even know how local government works. I hope that they pick up. I hope that people might actually start to engage a little bit more and learn a little bit more. But I can only hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. All right, no one else has signed up, but if you would like to speak, feel free to do so. Fill out a visitor card. All right, we will close the public hearing. We actually had our first budget meeting last week. Wasn't a single person in the room. So I get it. Okay, moving on to first reading of ordinances. Council Bill 2023-43.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-43, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the mayor to execute a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Transportation Enhancement Funds Program Agreement for the Cheyenne Road Multi-Use Path Project. Presenting is Street Superintendent Jeff Russell.
Mayor and council, good evening. This ordinance actually started back in May this year with a resolution allowing for Mr. Lyles to apply for and accept a grant from Federal Highway and from MoDOT. This part of that process is allowing us to enter into a program agreement so that those funds may be allocated to the cities and utilized for the multi-use path on Cheyenne Road that will go from Cheyenne Valley to Summit Elementary to the north. The second part of this is a budget amendment. Funds need to be ready for the city to be able to spend. We are required by the federal government to have those funds within our budget. The total project estimate is $880,000. This is a 80-20 cost share program, so the city would actually only be on the hook for $176,048 for this entire project. It is staff's recommendation to pass this ordinance, allowing for us to enter into the program agreement and to amend the budget for $880,240.
Quick question. So is this the one that really relies on MoDOT getting their stuff in on time following that whole process?
Yes, this project has a very, very tight timeline. In fact, we need to meet these timelines in order to be able to receive all of the funding for this project. We have been given the funding to move forward with the program agreement. We would be given the funding to move forward with the engineering. This timeline needs to be met so that the rest of the funds are given out for the construction part of that.
Okay. Perfect. Any questions from council? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
No more questions. We will open up the public hearing if you'd like to speak on this. And we will close the public hearing. Moving on to Council Bill 2023-44.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-44, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 107 of the Nixa City Code for the purpose of updating the city's regulations related to floodplain management. Presenting is City Planner Brendan Justin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mr. Godby's out ill this evening, so I wish him well, and this is kind of dry subject matter, so bear with me on this one. But so before you is a proposed code amendment to Chapter 107 of our city code designed to meet the minimal federal requirements for communities that participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. When Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, maps flood hazards in a community, there's two products that result from that. There's a flood insurance rate maps, which are called firm panels, and flood insurance studies. So firm panels illustrate the potential flood hazards for the community by showing flood risk zones that are used with the flood insurance study reports to determine the floodplain development regulations that apply in each zone and who's required to carry flood insurance on their homes or businesses. In 2018, Christian County was selected for a mapping update to its firm panels. This update uses more advanced mapping technology, engineering practices, and it's a lot more accurate, showing flood risks throughout Christian County. The code amendment is designed for a sample ordinance provided by Missouri State Emergency Management Agency. That's SEMA, the state emergency After they reviewed the city's floodplain management ordinance, so they kind of came up with the language in the ordinance. The proposed amendment contains a number of new altered definitions to comply with National Flood Insurance Program requirements. For example, the term 100-year flood was a common reference for worst-case scenario flooding occurring over the last 100-year period. In recent years, we're seeing more of these types of floods occurring as often as annually, so 100-year flood is no longer a applicable term. They now call them base floods, so in Code Section 107 definitions, that would be updated to remove the 100-year flood and call them base floods. With more accurate floodplain mapping in Christian County, we now have numbered A zones. These are special flood hazard areas where the new firm panels will show base flood elevations, that's base flood elevations is a new definition as well. The amendment adopts the new firm panels that would be effective November 2nd, so it's another kind of tight timeline on this. Additionally, as more of a housekeeping matter, is proposed to amend Section 107-40, which would allow the city administrator to appoint any qualified staff member to be a floodplain administrator. Right now, our code automatically designates the city planner, so it's kind of a minor change, but just other positions that are qualified could be a floodplain administrator. So. The public hearing on this matter was held before the Planning and Zoning Commission on September 11th of this year. There was no opposition. The commission voted unanimously to recommend approval to council. This amendment features the minimum required language to maintain our participation in the National Flood Insurance Program, and staff recommends approval on this amendment. Any questions? I'll do my best to answer. If not, I can get with our floodplain administrator and get answers to you quickly. So,
Any questions?
During the planning and zoning, it seemed like there was a time crunch that we were on this. Do we have enough time to get this submitted and for the state to do what they need to do to make it where we don't have any lapse in coverage?
Yeah, we should. Like I said, it needs to be effective by November 2nd. So, unless this is tabled a few times, we should be good. Yeah.
Okay, so as long as it's approved by the next meeting, then we should be good. Okay. I know there was talk of possibly running a first and second reading in the same night.
Yeah,
so.
concurrently, but.
And if any of you want to take a look at the maps, they're in my office. Feel free to do so. And good luck understanding them.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's pretty similar. There's a couple of floodplains that expanded somewhat significantly, but yeah, they're kind of interesting to look at, and they're available publicly. So,
Any other questions? You did great.
okay,
Thanks.
thanks.
All right, we will open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak about floodplains, we will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? All right. Moving on to second reading of Council Bill 2023-42.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-42, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2023 annual budget to appropriate funds for engineering costs associated with the repair of the pool located at the Nixa Aquatic Center. Presenting is Parks Director Matt Kraus.
Evening, Mayor, Council. As discussed at our previous council meeting, this is a budget amendment in the amount of $75,000 from the Aquatics Reserve to afford the engineering needed to repair the leaky pool that we currently have. This budget amendment will fund that project. If approved, we'll bring a resolution later in this meeting for that engineering to get started. You have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. We will open up the public hearing. We will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? All right, I will accept a motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Peterson, second by Ms. Graham. Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Zern Vest.
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
Matt Ogden.
Yes.
Moving on to resolutions. Resolution 2023-44.
Resolution number 2023-44, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the sale or distribution of alcohol on city property and authorizing a multi-day event for the proposed Creepin' at the Crossroads special event. Presenting is City Planner Brendan Justin.
Hello again. Okay, so this resolution is Creepin' at the Crossroads. It's the annual Halloween Fall Festival that's held downtown Nixa every year. The event is scheduled for October 28th. It will be from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. Cleaning up after the event, they estimate they'll be done around 6 in the morning the following day, October 29th. Event qualifies as a special event according to the provisions of Section 16-320 of the Nixa Code and is therefore required to obtain a special event permit for this event. The sponsor of the event is Nixa's Downtown Revitalization Committee. Section 16-325 of Nixa Code requires council to authorize multi-day events and events that involve the sale or distribution of alcohol on city property. A special event is planned to involve the sale and distribution of alcohol on city property and is considered a multi-day event because of the cleanup spilling over into the following day. Specific location for the sale and distribution of alcohol is the public parking lot located on the northeast corner of South Main Street and East Elm Street. It's where the beer garden usually is at Sucker Days. And the applicant is in pursuit of a picnic liquor license to be issued by the Missouri Division of Alcohol and Tobacco Control to sell and consume alcohol within the confines of the event. Should the picnic license not be issued by the state, the authorization provided by this resolution will become void. Staff recommends the authorization of the sale and consumption of alcohol and authorization of the multi-day event on the condition that all other requirements in Chapter 16 are satisfied and that the Missouri Division of Alcohol and Tobacco Control issue the appropriate licenses for the event. And if you have any questions, I can answer them. So,
Any questions from council?
It's the same as last year.
Yeah, same as last
yeah,
year.
they do it. Yep. So,
All right.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Might as well stay up here. So,
Yep. Nothing from council. Open up the public hearing. We will close the public hearing. I will accept the motion.
So made.
I'll second.
First by Mr. Lucas, second by Ms. Morris. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Moving on to Resolution 2023-45.
Resolution number 2023-45, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to solicit qualifications for stormwater engineering services. Presenting is City Planner Brendan Justin.
So for this resolution, the city of Nixa currently utilizes an engineering firm, Olson, as our third-party stormwater reviewers. The 3-year contract will expire this October, next month, with no available extensions left. The stormwater engineer reviews stormwater plans and calculations for all new development, subdivisions, and commercial buildings. The scope of work for the consultant will include the review of professionally prepared stormwater plans and calculations to ensure conformity with the City of Nixa's adopted stormwater regulations. The engineer will be able to provide city staff with general consulting services related to stormwater issues for the city as well. So hopefully we can help some more of our citizens out here. Staff recommends approval of this resolution.
How many do we normally get whenever we solicit for this? I guess it's been how many years since the last one? 3?
It was a 3-year contract, I believe.
Do we get?
It's pretty common to get half a dozen or more
Oh, okay.
for
Perfect.
engineering firms.
Perfect. Fantastic. Okay. Any other questions, council? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We will open up the public hearing. And I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I will accept a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second. First by Mr. Vest, second by Mr. Peterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, moving on to Resolution 2023-46.
Resolution number 2023-46, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to solicit qualifications for civil engineering services. Presenting is Assistant City Administrator and Public Works Director Doug Colvin.
Thank you. Similar to what Mr. Justin just brought to you, this would be authorization for us to send out RFQs and for the city administrator to enter contracts for civil engineering services. These would be what we call on-call services. Any would be for projects under $74,999. Once we hit $75,000, we go out for RFQs regardless. We don't just use one of our on-call engineers that's under contract. We have 2 under contract now, Schaefer and Hines and Olson Associates. They're at the end of their 3rd year. They do have 2 optional years, and we'll continue with those. What we'd like to do is add 2 more to that pool. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, with some of our projects during certain times of the year, we can easily overwhelm a company or a firm, especially a small firm like Schaefer and Hines, and we and so in a timely manner, we can't keep up with what we need to do. The other thing is different firms have different specialties, and so we'd like to look for a couple of other specialties to go along with what we have now. If we had 4 of them, and then that way we can better fit, better tailor the engineer themselves to the project that we want to do. We've gotten bigger, we've grown a lot, our projects are more complex, and so having some of those specialties is better for the city. At the end of the day, the cost is about the same. Most of those come in very close on their costing, so it just comes down to qualifications. Anyway, the purchasing policy that we have, I mentioned the $74,999, but it lays out what we need to do for these, which is in the proposal that you've seen or that was attached for the solicitation. It also meets state statute. Consulting firms have certain state statutes that we have to meet, and we have to go out for requests for qualifications, rank those qualifications, and then offer or negotiate contracts with those based on those qualifications. We don't do it by price. We actually don't even ask them for the price when they submit, so they don't give us any pricing at all. We do it strictly on qualification, and that's by state statute. So anyway, staff recommends approval of the resolution, and I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
Thanks.
All right. We'll open up the public hearing. We'll close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I will accept the motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Peterson, second by Ms. Graham. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Moving on to Resolution 2023-47.
Resolution number 2023-47, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa retiring the current city flag and adopting in lieu thereof a new city flag. Presenting is Communications Director Drew Douglas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm presenting the resolution to adopt a new city flag design. The background on this goes back to 2022, late last year, when you guys voted to adopt a new branding for the city through adoption of a new city seal and authorizing the city administrator to oversee the updating of the city branding, including logos, fonts, colors, and other design elements of the city's brand. However, at that time, the council did not update the city flag design at the same time that you guys adopted a new city seal and the subsequent implementation of the city branding, which we've been implementing throughout the year. And we had estimated that to be about a 6-year process before we kind of get everything updated across the city, which is why things like the video that we played at the beginning of the beginning of the council meetings has not been updated yet. You'll still see there's elements of the old branding still out there, but we're in the process of kind of starting to replace those things as we get around to them. Our current city flag does not match any of the current city branding because it was designed to integrate our former city logo. The current flag was adopted by council in November of 2017 following a design contest. The winner of that contest, her name was Tracy Southard. She was the owner of Ocean Wild Designs in Ocean View, Delaware. And she had received a $1,000 prize for winning the contest to redesign our city seal, flag, and police patch in that year. And her designs were selected as winners by the council at the time because they had integrated the city logo that we were using at the time. Since we've kind of moved away from that logo, it kind of created a dilemma. Well, our seal and our police patch and our flag were all kind of tied to that logo. So updating the logo kind of triggers this need to update the flag. To update potential flag designs, which integrated the branding adopted in 2022, and by the way, the city's not paid any fees or paid any prize money to develop the new city seal or the flag designs that were presented to you, or the logos for that matter. Those were developed in collaboration between myself and a local graphic design professor at Drury University, who created vector files for various design concepts that were developed by staff, council members, and some based on ideas were suggested by the public. Matt Noblet, who's that professor at Drury, donated his time and skill to assist us in creating the vector art for the sketches we submitted to him and the files he created using professional graphic design software, all ready to be sent to any vendor which can produce flags for purchase. At each step of this process, I have made every effort to follow best practices of flag design as promoted by the North American Vexillological Association. That's a mouthful. Their abbreviation is NAVA, so that's how I'll refer to it going forward. Through a pamphlet that they published called Good Flag, Bad Flag, How to Design a Great Flag, which was compiled by Ted Kay. That book is widely cited as the best available guidebook for organizations who are going through a flag design process. I didn't think that it would behoove me to bring to you guys ideas for flags without kind of consulting best practices, right? That book is, and considering those principles of flag design from that book, and considering our prior preference for integrating our city logo into the flag design and in developing the meaning interpretations for the designs, I had narrowed down the possibilities to 6, which I felt were the best possible implementations of the city's new logo mark, and presented those to council on August 28th for consideration. At the August 28th council meeting, you guys selected 3 finalist designs and directed me to open an online poll allowing the public to vote for which of those 3 designs were preferred to become the city's new official flag design. This was intended to gauge which of the 3 finalist designs was preferred. In total, we collected 1,160 votes between August 30th and September 18th. Option 1 was the high vote getter with 507 votes. That represents 43.71% of the total vote that came in. So design option 1, exhibit A, which is attached to this, therefore won the vote. And we can scroll down to option 1 there. And so if you guys want to adopt a new city flag, that would be my recommendation, since that one, this was the flag design that I would have recommended anyway, and that is the flag design that won the public vote. Any questions?
Any questions?
And we have the meaning, the assigned meaning is on the next page if you'll scroll down, Travis. If you're curious about what the meaning of this is, what is this design supposed to mean? We have that defined there, and you'll be adopting that. If you pass this, you'll be adopting that official meaning to the design as well.
Not to put you on the spot, do you remember when like the first meeting was that we had discussing logo and possible?
That would go back to 2021.
Okay. I had a feeling, like, I thought we've been spending years on this. So I was just curious. Thank you. Any other questions?
What's gonna happen to all the stuff with the current logo on it? Is it just gonna
So
be?
phasing it. So
Okay.
like if you needed to buy, say that was it, we
Right.
wait until we need one. Or like logos on vehicles, we wait until we need to replace them. And
Gotcha.
it's the same cost. We were gonna buy one anyway to replace it, so.
Gotcha.
And it's the same
as we
here for the
go.
flag. So we tend to buy, I think about back in 2017 was when I last bought flags. I bought 5 flags at that time. They've lasted until now, but the last one is on the pole outside and it's looking pretty raggedy. So rather than placing another order for more of that same flag, I thought we'll bring this forward to you guys, see if you want to change the design or not. That way, before I place an order for more of that old design, if we want to update, then that way I'm not double spending and I'm spending money. Because that's the only place that flies is in front of City Hall, maybe in front of the X Center. Does it fly in front of the X Center? It doesn't even fly there. So currently it only flies in one spot in town, so it's not a big expense. I would probably order this year maybe 5 flags. They're 3 foot by 5 foot size, and that will last us several years.
Yeah. It's never been a real rush for people to fly a Nixa flag at their home.
But we do purchase the flags from a company called bestflag.com. That's who makes them for us and sells them to us at a pretty good price. And once they have the design, they make it available so anybody can order a flag. So the current city flag has been for sale on bestflag.com for a few years. I don't think that they've sold very many, if any, other than to us. And that would still be available with the new design if we update.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Douglas.
Welcome.
All right, we will open up the public hearing.
Been waiting a couple years for this. I don't like it. My name's Ron Sanders. I live at 976 Glen Oaks Drive. Couple things that bother me about this whole process was, one, when we took the vote, the citizens were never asked to vote if we wanted to keep the existing flag over one of the new flags. It's kind of unfair to just flash a bunch of new stuff in front of everybody and not give them a choice to keep what was already here for several years. I understand, things get updated every once in a while, but whenever it comes to certain things, history matters, and sometimes we have to ground things in history. That's what flags are for. Flags ground, places and bodies in history. That flag back there hasn't changed in a really long time because it grounds the United States in that history that we started how many years ago? And the state flag, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a while since we've changed the state flag. So these symbols, these flags, the seal and everything, they're supposed to mean something that says that we're going to be here for a long time and our history matters. And by not asking the citizens, hey, you want to keep the existing or do you want the new one? I really think it was unfair. And I think that needs to be called out. And I just heard some circular reasoning, and I just have to share with you that I really don't like circular reasoning. We replaced the city seal, so in a circular reasoning way, we now have to replace the flag. And then we'll have to replace the next thing. If we continue on with this circular reasoning, then there is no logic in it. There is no real solid foundation for decisions being made, because you can always throw something else into that circular reasoning to keep things going, to keep things changing. That's how we're trying to come up with all kinds of new definitions of words. It's not because a whole bunch of people get together and say, well, the definition of this is a little bit off. It's like, No, I want to change the meaning, to something else. So I'm just going to make a campaign. I'm just going to keep on hammering it until people finally accept my will. And I don't like that. I don't think that people do like that. That goes against the human nature of what people like and what people don't like. And if we're doing this circular logic thing here with the flag and with the city seal, where else is circular logic taking place in our government that's going to cost us extra money, that's going to make for bad decisions and everything? So beware of that circular logic, because it's poison in any organization. Those are the two things that really bothered me with this whole process. I don't think my one voice is going to stop anything, but I do honestly hope that you don't choose the police seal that was presented 2 years ago. I really do hope that I can mobilize an army of people to come in here and stop y'all from doing that one. We'll see. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, the new seal's on Joe's sleeve, but it's not the one that looked like the cartoon.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep the public hearing open if you'd like to speak on this. And I will close the public hearing. And keep in mind, council, you do have every right to not approve this, and it would keep the same one. So that option is there. Is there any other questions from council? No. All right. If not, I will accept a motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Lucas, a second by Ms. Morris. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving on to Resolution 2023-48.
Resolution number 2023-48, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Norton Power Systems for generator preventative maintenance services. Presenting is Water Superintendent Jason Stutzman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city owns 30 generators throughout the city. 25 of them are in the water and wastewater department, and the other 5, one's at City Hall, one at the police station, 2 at Public Works, and the big one down at the wastewater treatment plant. These generators need regular maintenance every year to keep them updated when we have storm outages and stuff, in order to keep the city functioning as it normally does. This contract will allow a company to come in and maintenance them twice a year. One will be considered a dry maintenance, where they'll just check the fluids, run them, and make sure everything's proper. The second one will be a wet one, where they change all the fluids and run them and make sure everything's good. We put it out for bid. We received 3 bids, with Norton Power being the lowest bid at $20,450 a year for all the generators. Staff recommends Norton Power Systems to take care of this contract.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. We'll open up the public hearing. We will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I will accept the motion.
So made.
Second. First by Mr. Lucas, second by Mr. Peterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Guessing you're doing the next one,
I
too.
got the next one, too.
Moving on, Resolution 2023-49.
Resolution number 2023-49, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Axis Automation and Electrical LLC for a new control panel for well number 12. Presenting is Water Superintendent Jason Stutzman.
Well number 12 is part of the RDE system. It is the big well that really provides all the water for most of the RDE system. The well was drilled in 1989, and it is the original panel for this well. As soon as we took ownership The panel has been giving us a little problem. Sometimes it will not kick the booster pumps on and we lose pressure out there in the far ends of the RDE system. It's outdated. It won't work with SCADA. It's a piece of junk, to be honest with you. We put this bid out back in March for 2 weeks with no response. We kind of stepped back and waited for a little bit. We put it back out the 1st of August. This time we run it for 4 weeks. We got 2 bids with Access Automation coming in at $17,845, which will make this well more reliable and less time for the guys to go out on the weekends and have to mess with it. So staff recommends Access Automation Electrical for this project.
And weren't we kind of under budget on what we had expected by purchasing RDE with some of the enhancement or the repairs and everything that we would have to do?
Yeah, there was a lot of skeletons in the closet that happened to show up after.
More pieces
We
of
weren't
junk.
quite informed of everything as far as electrical and pumps and stuff like that. And this is the first groundwater system that we have. Most of our pressure runs off tower elevation, and this one has to run off the booster pumps, and for some reason them panels just won't communicate with each other sometimes. And I've got a very good gentleman on staff that takes care of all our electricals, and he's been doing a fabulous job for years for the city, but he has come to his wits' ends with this thing. And we've called in professionals from AC Electric to come and help us, and everybody we've talked to said this needs to go. It's outdated and it's junk.
Perfect. Any questions? All right, thank you. We'll open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak about a piece of junk. All right, we will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I'll accept a motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Ms. Morris, second by Ms. Graham. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, Resolution 2023-50.
Resolution number 2023-50, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Water's Edge Aquatic Design for engineering services related to the Nixa Aquatic Center, presenting as Parks Director Matt Kraus.
Good evening. Are we done with the pool yet? Just kidding. Before you denies a resolution with a contract for the city administrator to sign to begin work with Water's Edge Aquatic Design in the engineering side of the pool leak repairs. As discussed previously, we have determined that the best course of action would be to replace all of the recirculation piping underground around the pool to ensure that the pool is good to go for several more years. We've encompassed a few other projects or a few other ancillary items for them to look at as well, and that is the replacement of the piping and filtration system and things, and update that system in the pump house, as well as hopefully and possibly add more pool deck space, maybe a drop slide, other water features and things as well. And so this engineering company will look at that. We did submit this RFQ to 9 companies immediately, as well as the posting. We received responses from 3. After scoring, Water's Edge was the clear leader out of the scoring, and so we began working with them on a contract and a fee assessment. Their fee for these services is $69,500. It does follow us all the way through from the start of the project and developing the scope of work and construction documents and everything needed for the project, all the way through to the end result of the company that actually comes in and does the construction. They would be here to follow us through that entire project to make sure that everything goes as designed through that engineering process. And so with approval of tonight's resolution, it would give the city administrator permission to sign these contracts and get us going. Also in there is a timeline for the project as well. It's in a 4-phase process. with phases 1 and 2 being the initial startup and design of the project, and then 3 and 4 being the bidding for the construction, and then the follow through in phase 4 of that following that construction company through. And so their timeline is very good, I believe, and would get us going as fast as possible to get this project bid so that we can get around for the 2024 season.
All right. Any questions?
You'd mentioned that there was looking at some amenities to it. I know this year on the CIP list, there was to replace like the aquatics bucket tower. Is that still going to be done, or are we looking to maybe do something instead so the money from that CIP could be used towards the...
We will save the money from that CIP this year. When we found our leak, we decided to pull back on that project just a little bit to figure out what was going on. And so with the pool not opening, we kind of just pulled all the way back. So we will save that money this year and just kind of roll this into that project to update all of it at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
We'll open up the public hearing. We will close the public hearing. If nothing else, I will accept a motion.
I'll make the motion. Oh, let Aaron do it first. I'll take the second.
First from Mr. Peterson, second Ms. Graham. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Let's get an update, Ms. Robbins. How was the multicultural event?
It was fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, we had a very good turnout. We had a beautiful day. We had 7 performers. A couple of them blew me away how good they were. We had 6 food trucks, and all of them said that they did very well. We had, I believe, 10 vendors, and most of them want to come back next year as well. I've also had 3 groups contact me that they want to perform next year at our multicultural festival. I think next year we need to get started a little earlier and set a date so that we don't compete with some of the bigger festivals. And we need to figure out a time frame that we want to set and then just move from there on and make it, that's what it's going to be, the date and the time, so that people can, because last year we had it at night for just 2 hours and it worked out very well. This time we did it from 10 to 2, so it was 4 hours. But we competed with a lot of soccer games and other festivals in the area. But I think we had 400, 450.
Yeah, I think and she's being very modest. She did a fantastic job. The multicultural event was phenomenal. And I had a lot of positive comments. And I think we estimated probably somewhere between 450 to 500 people that came through the event, which is fantastic, especially considering the fact that we had so many other festivals in the area and ball games. So fantastic event. She did a great job planning that. Staff really pitched in and helped out and volunteered, as well as some council members. So thank you, everyone. It was a fantastic event.
And Jennifer did a great job announcing everybody, too.
She was excellent.
Yeah, she's got a new job. She's our MC now.
Oh.
No.
No.
We don't want to see that anyway.
I filled in for Becca, so you know.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for everything you did. I heard a lot of great things from people. So,
It was fun.
Anything else from council? Anything else from staff?
Mayor and council, the president has approved Governor Parsons' request for FEMA assistance for the late July storm that we had. Originally, we had put together preliminary numbers in the $130,000 range, which didn't include everything we have since found out we could include. At the time, we didn't realize we could include regular staff time. We thought it was only overtime. We didn't realize we could include some administrative cost. We had not come up with an estimate for the brush grinding, so just those items alone, I bet will push us closer to the 200,000 mark. But none of that is finalized yet. I just wanted to let you know that it's ongoing. FEMA will soon be holding a kickoff meeting, and we'll be going to that to update everything, and we'll make a report to you later on what reimbursements we were able to get.
Thank you, Doug.
And then the only other thing I'll mention is Cindy and I will be out of the office for a conference. Conference is actually Saturday through Wednesday of next week, but Doug will be in the office and available if needed. And then I'll also have my cell phone if she needs something.
All right.
Blood drive. Your blood drive?
Yep, that's the right idea.
Just a reminder, our next regularly scheduled meeting on October 10th will start at 6 PM.
Oh,
you hear that, Matt?
5:30. 6 o'clock?
I'm sorry, it's on a Tuesday.
It's at 6 instead of 5:30.
It's at 6.
5:30, okay.
I'll let your wife know.
6.
And then
It's
this
on the 10th.
Thursday here
Yeah,
in
on the
council
10th.
chambers is the Mayor's Challenge Blood Drive. I believe it's, 10:30 to 4:30? And we have held on to the trophy for 3 straight years. I don't like to lose. So anybody who can donate, if you can't, tell your friends. It's really huge for our area. The good part about it is that, that blood stays in this area. We actually got to meet someone the other day who's actually been a longtime friend that has received a lot of the blood that came from the blood center. Just huge to the impact that they make in this area. So even if you're afraid of needles, just deal with it for about 15 minutes. It's not that hard. Yeah. Buck up.
Can't do it.
And we definitely want to beat Ozark. That's all that matters. So, anything else from council? All right. Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.